Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston with defeatyourcravings.com, and I am here with
Dr. Howie Jacobson of AskHowie.com.
We are happy to be here with you today. We should tell you that neither of us are medical doctors. We're the PhD type. Howie, I've got two quotes I want to work with you about today. Let's do the first. Let's do one at a time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a quote of mine, which is that binge anxiety is just the pig's plan to binge. Binge anxiety is just your pig's plan to binge. Do you ever get nervous sitting around thinking, I'm afraid I might binge, or I really hope I don't binge, or I'm scared I might binge eventually? There's an easy 1, 2, 3 solution. Recognize that binge anxiety is always an indication that you haven't fully separated from your pigs, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's really your inner food monster. It's an indication you haven't fully separated from your pig's plan to binge. So recognize it, then articulate the pig's plan and the associated squeal. The squeal would be the reason it says it's okay to break your rules. And then make a counter plan or do a strong refutation that disempowers its logic. For example, suppose you adopted a never rule for sugar and things have been going exceptionally well for you for a couple of months. You haven't had one bite of sugar. And then one day out of the blue, you catch yourself thinking, I really hope I don't stop and get a vegan donut from Whole Foods on the way home. Obviously, this is just what your pig was planning to do. So just revisit your big why, articulate the squeal in pig language. In other words, you've been good for so long, come on, you can get away with it. Refute it, for example, I don't want to get away with anything, I want to live an addiction-free life. And make a plan to eat enough or take food with you, other healthy food, so that stopping to get the donut won't be tempting at all. The binge anxiety almost always goes away completely when you follow this procedure because binge anxiety is really just the pig's plan to binge. And this is actually an off-take of a very old insight from psychology, which is that behind every fear, there's a wish. Behind every fear, there's a wish. And it's just that the wish has not been owned by the ego. And this is a very pop psychology, practical way of dealing with it. What do you think?
Could you repeat the steps one more time? I want to sort of visualize them a little bit better than I got them.
Okay. So I'm sitting around thinking, I really hope I don't go get a vegan donut. I'm scared I'm going to stop and get a vegan donut from Whole Foods on the way to work today. So you want to recognize that this is actually a plan and not anxiety at all. Your pig or your food monster is confusing you into thinking that this is your anxiety as opposed to its wish and its plan. Okay?
Okay.
So what you want to do is articulate that. What is it specifically that the pig wants you to do? I think you should stop at Whole Foods and get a vegan donut. You've been working really hard. You've been so good at this no sugar thing for so long. You deserve it. You can get away with it, right? You can say, well, I don't want to get away with anything. I want to live an addiction-free life. You can refute it. You can visit your big why. The reason I want to live an addiction-free life is so that I can be present for my wife and my kids, so I can have the energy to enjoy life, so I don't have to recover from my meals, so that I can have energy to work and hike and get outside in nature and do all the projects that are important to me and pursue my goals and dreams. So I don't want to get away with anything. I want to live an addiction-free life. So you're connecting to your why. You're disempowering the pig's excuse for breaking the rule. And then the last step is to make a counter plan. So it's true that I might be hungry on the way home. It's true I can be hungry on the way home or on the way to work. Maybe I'll take some tangerines with me. Or maybe I'll make sure that I eat before I go. Or maybe I will leave something in Tupperware for myself at home so that as soon as I get back, I know it's there and waiting for me. And if I catch my pig fantasizing about that vegan donut, I will immediately switch my fantasy to the bowl of brown rice and vegetables and nutritional yeast or whatever it is that I made for myself. And when you do that, what you've essentially done is you've brought your true self back into it. You've owned the wish. You've separated from it because it's distinct and apart from your stated goals and dreams. You've disempowered the logic that was supporting it, and you've made a counter plan. Then the binge anxiety goes away.
Got it. Thank you. That was very clear.
Make sense?
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I love how you make it clear that what's causing the anxiety, like once you say, oh, that's what it is, right? Because it feels like it's this deep inner demon, right? Like there's something in the pit of my soul that's corroded and rotten and wants me to do this thing. And so the anxiety is like fear of ourselves.
Yes.
And the pig is being very clever here. The articulation is, I hope I don't, or I'm worried I will. We've learned that the subconscious mind doesn't understand negation. It just understands images.
Yes.
So like, I bet you're thinking like, I hope I don't go get that vegan donut at Whole Foods in the bakery section.
The one with the chocolate frosting and nice brown.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and the lady in the hairnet who's serving it and who's, 5'4" and has a name like it's creating, I don't know how safe for work your podcast is. I won't use any bad words, but it kind of reminds me of sort of like illicit sexual fantasy that, can be incredibly vivid and visual and stimulating. And yet you would never do it in real life because it's transgressive or harmful or something. So just because they're the sorts of things that you might think in the privacy of your own head and maybe type into a search engine, it doesn't mean that's what you want to happen to you or what you want to do. And I think there's a clarity there that I think you have just added, Glenn, to the anxiety around food. Just say, oh, it's just the pig saying, don't think of an elephant in purple tights.
Right. This is one of the reasons that when you recognize your pig has you engage in this type of sensory fantasy, it's not only visual, it could be the smell and the mouthfeel and the way it feels in your hands and the way that it looks on the plate and everything. You want to substitute it. So if you have at the ready some things that you really love, like I was using brown rice and vegetables and tofu or something with nutritional yeast on it, but maybe everybody's not going to find that healthy and lovable.
Bowl of cherries?
Yeah, maybe it's a big bowl of cherries. And you can visualize the color and how it's sitting on your table and what it's like as you're taking that first bite and how the juice kind of squirts in your mouth and the sensation of breaking the skin on the cherry and getting into the good stuff. If you can start fantasizing about that instead of the donut, you're going to have a lot more success. They call it mindful switching. I didn't invent that, but it makes a big difference. The thing is that what's happening is your brain is generating anticipatory dopamine. And so you want to say to yourself, well, that's okay. That's a healthy part of my brain that's doing that, but it's directed at the wrong thing. So let me redirect it towards the right thing.
Got it.
Is there anything else you wanted to say? I kind of cut you off in the middle.
Yeah. No, I think that was it.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.